Hi everybody, this is Ebony Love, and I'm here to show you how to cut bias binding using your AccuQuilt Studio machine. You could also do this using the AccuQuilt Go, but I'm going to actually demonstrate this on the Studio. The first thing that you want to start with is a really cool binding fabric. This one is a striped one. I love doing bias binding using stripes because you get a really nice diagonal. You could do this also with plaids. And then if you just have regular binding fabric that you need to go around curves, that's also a good use for bias binding. The first thing that you want to start with is a piece of fabric, and we're going to need to fold this into a square because that's how we're going to locate the bias edge. And to do this, you're going to need to measure the width of your fabric. So my fabric happens to be about 45 inches, so I cut a yard and just under a yard and a quarter out of this piece of fabric. You could do this with a smaller piece of fabric. It's just the way that you fold it, you'll have to be really careful. As you pull this fabric out, the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you have straight edges on both sides. So you're going to square up your fabric on both sides, and the fabric starts originally folded selvage to selvage. So what you want to do is actually unfold this, and this is a rather large piece of fabric, so I apologize if you can't see the whole thing at once. So you're going to fold this corner to corner, so you've actually got a straight edge and a selvage edge that you're going to match it up. So you're going to fold this into a gigantic triangle. And what you want to do is you want to get this really, really square. So you can see that this, or maybe you can't see, I'm not quite sure, but this is aligned with the straight edge here. So I have a really crisp edge. When you're folding this bias binding, I want you to keep your iron handy. And I have my ironing board off to the side here. And it would also be good to have some starch because you want this to be really crisp. So after you get this fold this way, I want you to go ahead and press the edge. So I have mine kind of pre-pressed, but I just want to show you that you want to get a really crisp edge here. Okay? So once you have crisped that edge, what you want to do is then fold this into thirds. So I'm going to fold this corner in here. And you want to make sure that your edge is really straight. So just make sure that the way that you have this folded is extremely straight. And then you want to fold the other edge in as well. So you're going to fold this into approximately thirds. So this kind of looks like a nice envelope. And then you're going to take this and you're going to press this as well. So make sure that your edge is aligned. This is really nice to do with stripes because as you fold this, your stripes should align and you should see straight lines going across. So again, you're going to just press this edge really crisply. And I like keeping the ironing board really close here because then I don't have to move the fabric as much. Now, if you remember, the Studio dies are about 14 inches wide if you have the super giant strip cutter. So I want to fold this so that it is under 14 inches because I want this to actually fit on the die as it goes through the machine. So I'm going to take one more fold, and with this large piece of fabric here, this is exactly 10 layers that's going to go through the Studio. So you can't do any more than this. All right, so once you've got that envelope edge, again, you're going to press that really well and make sure that your edges are nice and aligned. So what you end up with is this nice little envelope-shaped piece of fabric. The next thing you want to do is take your strip cutter, and here's my super giant strip cutter, and you can do this with any size. I just happen to like 2.5-inch bindings. And you're going to align this on the die so that your folded edges align. And I snap straight lines on the edges of my die so that I can get these aligned really straight. So I'm going to make sure that that's straight and everything is pressed really well, and I want to make sure that this is flat and the edges are aligned perfectly. So it's a little bit fussy, but you want to make sure that you do this right, or you will not have a nice bias edge. All right. So I'll take my cutting mat here, check it one more time, measure twice, cut once, as I always say. And I'm just running this through the die, and you'll probably have an extra triangle that's kind of left over. So as this comes through the die, I do have this rather large triangle. I tend to keep these pieces if they're big enough. And as I pull this off, you'll see that you get these strips, and they're going to come off at different sizes. And they'll be a little bit folded. But the further that you go in here, the longer these strips will get. So if I'm kind of back here, I'm going to end up with this really nice long strip. And that's how you cut bias binding on your studio. Thanks so much. Have fun.